recording. Okay. This is a getting started tutorial for the absolute beginner. Just so you can catch up a little bit with the next tutorial where we make a game. Just want to try to get everybody on the same page. Again, this is for absolute beginners. And we're just going to go over a bit of how making a web page works with the big three, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So first off, this isn't scripted. I have some jot notes on another screen here, but this isn't really scripted. If I'm going too fast, you can always rewind and pause as you need it. It's a video. Do what you need to do. So first off, we're going to start with some HTML. HTML is really quite simple. It's just a bunch of nested tags. For the most part, they're nested tags. There are a couple that don't get nested. But nested, I mean, there's an opening one and a closing one. Closing one usually has that slash there, the /. And they're between the less than and greater than signs. So that would be the whole tag. The doc type doesn't have a closing tag. It's just there for information for the browser. Here, let me just bring those down so they're a bit easier to see. Okay. So if you're actually going to nest them, it would look something like this. The HTML matches with the HTML, body with the body, and the head with the head. Title goes together like that. For brief description, well, I actually have this set up at colonglover.com/dev, or if you have your flashing text cursor over something that is well, for here anyway, HTML. It also applies to the other tabs, CSS and JavaScript. I have a lot of it documented, not everything. But if you want more information on the head tag, for example, you can go Control-G, and it'll bring you over here to the help, and it'll give you a bit of information on it. So I don't really need to get into explaining that. You can read the help file. The help file is the last tab, by the way. And it'll give you more information, a little bit more information. You can always look it up online, Google it, if you want more information about what the tags do. The main goal of this isn't really the tag, it's just to give you a brief what's the word? Overview of what's gonna go on here. Just to get you up to speed on for the next video. So from here, basically the way this works is that all your HTML goes here, your head, what's in the head anyway, basically is stuff for the browser or search engines. Generally you don't see it, but the only thing that the user does see is probably the title, which would generally show up here if it was your own web page. This is my web page, so that's what's going to show up in the title. For now, I might change that. I don't know. And whatever goes in the body is generally what the user sees. For example, this HTML goes here. If I was to hit run, that's what they would see right here. Now, that's kind of boring, so let's add something else to it. Let's add a link, otherwise known as an anchor, which is just a href would refer to the URL that the link should go to, and where it should go is between quotes. Most everything uses HTTPS nowadays. So if you made your href like that, you close that tag. It automatically, this setup automatically puts in the end tag. And then you type in the name you want in between the two tags. So if you hit run here now, you should see the link. And down here at the bottom, if it shows up, oh, my logo might be in the way. Well, down there in the bottom left corner, when you hover your mouse over it, it shows up where the link goes. I'm not going to click it because it'll refresh the page. And then I got to start over. So yeah, if you're working on this, try not to click any links unless you have your stuff saved. So we'll go back to the HTML tab. And that's what a link is. Now let's say another popular thing would be an image. Pretty simple, img. This doesn't use an href. Although it takes a URL, it's basically the same thing. So just to be confusing, they called it source. There is no closing tag for image. There's really nothing. It's an image. Doesn't need to be anything in between a tag. So you can type out a full URL, or if the image is in the same folder as your HTML. This is all on my server, so it won't help you any unless you're using a full URL. Like you have to find a site that supports hot linking or image uploads like this. So when you hit run, you'll see the image. Now you notice this is all pretty much on the same line. Well, kind of hard to see with the huge image in the way, but we get rid of the image. You see it's all on the same line and not the way I have it done here. That's because HTML pretty much ignores white space. You want to go down a line, you add a break. And if you were to run it this time, you'll see that it reflects what I have there. And if you want a bit more spacing in between, you can always make a paragraph. You run that, there's a bit more spacing. Paragraph also works. It's also works as a closing tag, so you can do it that way too. Works the same. So whatever way suits you, you can just do it that way. And well, we don't really need those if we're going to be working in Canvas, because if you're doing HTML5 games, most of the time you're just going to be using a canvas for graphics. So what goes in between the two canvas tags? Since it is a graphic, there's not much that goes in between the graphics tags. Most modern browsers will support Canvas anyway, but usually you just type in something like Canvas not supported. So that's what's going to show up if the Canvas tag isn't supported. But like I said, most modern browsers will support the Canvas, so generally that message won't be seen. And in order to make the Canvas tag useful, you have to give it an ID. because canvas by itself doesn't do anything. See, I hit run, doesn't do anything. You don't see anything. So we gave it the ID can. Now we go into the CSS. IDs start with number as per this hint right here. So number can, curly brackets. Let's put a border around it. Not equals. Border. Do a 4-pixel border. Solid and black. So now if I hit run, this is our canvas. Whatever's in this black circle. I said circle. It's a rectangle. Whatever's in this black rectangle is our canvas. CSS isn't much more than describing what you want to do with the canvas, or HTML tags in general. So there isn't much more I can explain here. If you want to know more, there's select Control G, or it'll tell you, give you some information on what you're looking for. A help file. But yeah, other than that, there isn't much more that I do in CSS that needs to be explained for the tutorial coming up. The rest of this comes up in JavaScript. This is where the actual programming begins. And from here, you can pretty much load up this and follow along if you want. You'll need at least this much typed in for the canvas, and you may or may not want a border around it so you can see where it is. So JavaScript is where you do the actual programming. I have it set up so the variables get placed at the beginning here and the functions come next. And the code, other code comes down here at the bottom. Anything with the 2 forward slashes in front of it is a comment. We can just comment at that debug here for now. Let's start with variables. Variables are basically placeholders, I guess, where you store things that can change. For example, anytime a new user comes in, they might have a different name. So you make a variable for name so it can be set to each individual person that comes along through various ways. So let's put a name in here. And that's something that can be changed. I can change it later on just by reassigning it. Name equals Fred. So that can be done anywhere else in this script. It can be changed on the fly, basically. If you have something that doesn't need to be changed ever, well, at least in the instance of the script, you define it as a constant. If you want a greeting that's static, that never changes, you just define it as a constant. And then from there, I have this function called debug to help out with displaying messages. So we'll just write up a quick debug. First thing that gets set is a timer. We'll give it a 5-second timer. It's 5,000 milliseconds, which equals 5 seconds. Do a comma. And the first variable is high. well, constant is high. That's the name of it. And this is what it equals. And the other one's the variable, which is name. We'll go plus name. Put that semicolon at the end. Now this will show up a little debug prompt, which I don't know if you've been noticing, but they show up on this side. It's just something I got to help out the JavaScript programmers. So that's how constants and variables work. Constants don't change. If you try to reassign it, you'll get an error. The error will show up in your debug console, which is mentioned up here. You hit F12. I'm not going to get into that right now. From there, that's variables and constants. From there, we have the functions. The functions are sections of code that get repeated, reused a lot. Like, you'll probably have more than one debug going on, depending on what you're trying to do. As you need it, basically. Or any other section of code that gets repeated so that you're not constantly typing in the same stuff over and over. That's would be the functions, and in the code section you put the stuff that you only want to run once, basically. Like here, for example, here I have the debug command. But this is also where you do the setup and stuff. And we can draw on the canvas from here. So let's give it a go. First off, since we're complete beginners, we have this help file here that works perfectly for this. Scroll right up to the top here, and you should see Canvas Cheat. You click on that. It'll tell you you need your canvas tag, which we already have set up. And we should grab this here code here. Control C to copy and paste. I'll explain it a little bit. Basically, this is grabs the canvas element from the HTML. It's called can. It's also labeled can here. This uses the variable constant. This uses the constant can from here and grabs the context so that we can draw on it and do other fun stuff with it. And the next line just sets the width and height. So if we run that, we should have a 400 by 400, which we do. And that's the beginnings of playing with Canvas. So if we want, we can go back to help. Let's say we want it to draw on the canvas. Let's we can draw a rectangle. We just need to actually just copy this code. We have to make some changes to the old section here. But basically it's just to copy and paste this in. Line width is 3. We want it to start at 1, 1. That would be the X and Y, and then we need the width and height. Let's say the 400 by 400 canvas. Let's go 200 by 200. So it fits inside the canvas. And that's a red. That's a green fill. The red outline with a green fill. I, for the most part, can read the hex numbers. I'll show you that too in a second. But if we hit run here, green fill and a red outline. So red outline and a green fill. Stroke is outline. And that's how we draw inside the canvas. Now, if you want to know how to get a particular color, help file is also there for that too. Go right up to the top here and Hit color. And we have this little slider thing here. Do the color green and the number. Move this around. Let's say we want a nice orange. Probably want something like that. Go back to the JavaScript tab. And just paste in what we had there, including the number sign. That should be an orange fill in the triangle there now. Like that. And that's basically it that I'm going to cover in this video. Basically, all I can tell you is just read through the help file. I've added a lot more since the last video. Covers quite a bit. Not everything is there yet, but I'm slowly working on it. And from there, that should give you the basics. And we're gonna work on a game from there in the next video. I might do it in a couple parts. It's kind of long, as you'd expect. Even for a simple game, it takes quite a bit. And that's it for now. The rest of these buttons were explained in the previous video, so you should take a look at that if you haven't yet. And I'm signing off for now. Later.